The Chiefs have traded Joe Thuney to the Chicago Bears, and everyone's got their panties in a wad. Also, Devante Adams to the Chiefs. Is that possible? We're going to talk about it. Good morning, Chiefs Kingdom. Welcome in on this beautiful Wednesday morning. Joe Thuney has been traded to the Chicago Bears for a 4th round pick
Didn't see
in
this coming.
2026. I wasn't expecting it, Mike. It just kind of popped up in my news feed randomly this morning while I'm trying to rest for a minute.
Right. Diana Rossini had actually just posted up and was like, hey, the Bears have offered the Chiefs something for Joe Thuney. They're going to work out something. And then within the hour, boom, trade is official. The Chiefs are going to trade Joe Thuney to the Bears in exchange for a 2026 4th round pick. 2026 4th round pick, Steve, that's what's got everybody like up in arms. They say it's not enough. He plays for the Chiefs, Steve. It should have been a 1st round pick minimum.
Man, I've noticed that there's a big portion of our fan base that has unrealistic expectations about our players. They think that they're worth everything in the world. Well, here's the thing about it. Joe Thuney, he was a top rated pass protecting guard in all of football over the last few years. He's great. He's a future Hall of Famer. He's been a beast for the Chiefs. He slid over and played the left tackle position. And, of course, everybody loved him until he didn't do so great in the Super Bowl, and then everyone hated him. But now they're back to loving him, and he is a 1st-round pick this year. It's the only way we're trading him, right? But seriously, he freed up $16 million of cap space with this and got a valuable draft pick in next year's draft. I think this was a great move by Brett Veach. It's an unpopular one, but I think this is the type of thing that you have to do to sustain a freaking dynasty. You have to stay young, you have to stay hungry, and sometimes you have to make decisions that you don't necessarily want to make.
Yeah, Thuney back in 2021 was a great signing. But look, he's 32 years old. He's only getting older. His value's only going lower. And this is the cost of what it takes to re-sign back another right guard that everybody loves,
Right.
Trey Smith. Trey Smith is going to demand top-of-the-line money. We kept saying this. Are you going to pay him top-of-the-line money? Because if you are, you're going to make a lot of concessions down the line. And this is exactly what happens. And Joe Thuney pops up on the chopping block. They had to rework the deal out either way. So either Joe Thuney came to the table and was like, look, I'm getting older. I'm not reworking the deal. Now, I kind of don't think he would say that. But more than likely, the Bears just decided that, hey, we got to protect Caleb Williams. Ryan Poles was with the Chiefs. He was probably integral in bringing in Joe Thuney back in 2021. So he just wants to beef up the Bears. The Bears were all over Trey Smith at the Super Bowl and everything, trying to poach him out from under us then. So they need help. And Brett Veach seen an opportunity to get rid of $16 million. He wasn't going to be able to pay Joe Thuney or restructure anything that was probably what Thuney was worth. Thuney's got 2 or 3 good years left of football. Let him go restructure something with the Bears, and let's get something out of it. Also, a 4th-round pick isn't horrible, Steve. Just because it's in 2026 don't mean you can't use it to maneuver in this year's draft. We see that all the time. Like, I don't know why everybody's acting like because it's 2026 – you would think we traded him away for a 7th-round pick in 2040.
I think that everyone should learn from the past. You know, last year with L'Jarius Sneed, people thought that they were going to get a 1st-round pick for him and things like that, and it just doesn't happen, man. And they got a 3rd-round pick for him, and it was a future one. We're going to cash in on that this year. So, I mean, this is not out of the realm of what Brett Veach normally does in the offseason. And the thing about the Joe Thuney thing, man, is what do you think this means? Is it just that they didn't want to pay him? They wanted to move on. They wanted to get younger, or do you think they have something locked and loaded and ready to go? You think Brett Veach is cooking something? You think he's got a little stew brewing back there in the old Veach kitchen? I mean, they've got to make a move on the left tackle.
It's called Trey Smith.
Well, I understand that. But I also think this opens up something for that left tackle position. Maybe they're thinking about making a move there, because I think if they were going to invest in a left tackle, whether it be a free agent or what have you, they had to figure something out with the cap space. And I think
the Chiefs had to get back to cap. They had to get back. They were over the cap. They had a limited amount of time. They had to do it. So this now knocks off some cap, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a cap expert. I don't know. I don't claim to be. Don't care. Point is, They had to do something. You can't, like, this is what happens when Trey Smith now gets out of a rookie contract. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've got a bunch of guys that you draft and you develop. Well, the bad thing about being good and developing well is that at some point those rookie contracts run out, and now you have to pay top dollar. And you can't always do that, which means it's a never-ending draft and build process. That's the way you play it, especially when your quarterback makes as much as Patrick Mahomes. That's just the way it is. So you have to do what you got to do. I'm sure a lot of people, 95% of us that's watching aren't agreeing with us that the 4th round pick was enough. It's never going to be enough. It wasn't enough to get a 3rd round pick out of Snead last year. It's just never going to work out, Steve, because why? You got a lot of delusional influencers within the Chiefs space that'll say stupid crap 24/7, and everybody buys into it, and that's just the way it is. Nobody, if you're a realist, you're negative, you're this, you're that, everything else under the sun. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, Joe Thuney is going to be with the Bears. Brett Veach now has a way to create more space. He found it. You can now get Trey Smith locked up. This pretty much locks up Trey Smith. They've got to get something done. They will get something done now. It has to. You can't lose Thuney and Trey Smith in the same exact year. So that's going to happen. There's not a lot of big names on the market when it comes to left tackle that the Chiefs can go grab. Stanley, Cam Robinson, people like that. Some people think they're overpaid. Some people think they're too old. They're not good enough in the case of Cam Robinson. I don't think Cam Robinson's that impressive, to be honest. I think we overpaid for Jawan Taylor a couple years ago. So I don't want to get in a situation where you overpaid for Jawan Taylor. 2 years later, you overpay for Cam Robinson. Right? You don't want to get in that kind of situation. Let Brett Veach work. And a lot of people are like, well, Brett Veach will screw it up in the draft. Dude, this cat has built a dynasty, and people still cannot just let him do the job.
Just be patient and see what happens, right? You don't have to love every move Brett Veach makes. I don't think that you have to. But I do think he has an idea of what he's trying to do. Like, it seems like it's organized chaos with Brett Veach. It seems like it's always a little something out of left field, throws people for a loop, but then you'll see later on kind of what he had in mind. And I think this is kind of just, like I said, freeing up the cap space. You got a valuable pick for 2026 now out of Joe Thuney. Like you said, maybe Thuney was tired of restructuring. We've been restructuring Thuney for years now. He's getting a little older, different things like that. But I think it's kind of one of those things we talked about after the Super Bowl, after that ass beating. We talked about how some pages are going to get turned. It's just all there is to it. You have to keep evolving. You have to keep moving along. I think you want to stay younger. That's definitely a thing. That's why they're investing in Trey Smith, homegrown talent, as opposed to Joe Thuney, who they went and got from the New England Patriots. I think they're going to invest in Trey Smith. I think they're also going to be looking to maybe use some of the guys in-house to replace Joe Thuney. I think you could be looking at Kingsley Suamataia or Wanye Morris or one of those cats playing left tackle or left guard next year. I'm sorry.
Caliendo.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I doubt that one. We'll see. I don't think
Reed really likes Caliendo.
He does. I just don't think that's the long-term answer there. I do think they're going to use some of those guys that they've drafted to take one of these spots. I mean, you even have Hunter Norzad, C.J. Hansen. There's a lot of guys in that room that do have talent and can play that left guard position. And then as far as the left tackle goes, Mike, I still think they're probably on board with just re-signing DJ Humphries, giving him the full offseason, giving him an opportunity to play that position next year. But they're still going to draft. I think they're still going to draft more offensive line. That's just what they've been doing.
Yeah, rumors are floating around that the Chiefs are interested in everybody. I've seen rumors of Cooper Kupp. I've seen rumors of now Devante Adams, which we might talk about in a minute. But speaking of Devante Adams, he got traded last year. He was 32 years old. What'd he get traded for? A 3rd-round pick, a conditional 3rd. The conditional was going to be a 2nd if the Jets made the Super Bowl. I think we all knew that was a bogus condition. So he got traded for a 3rd-round pick. And I'm pretty sure Devante Adams' name carries a little more weight than Joe Thuney. To football players, probably not. I would rather have a Thuney on the team, in the trenches than a Devante Adams. But you always see that it's always weighted bigger for those big skill positions. And again, if Devante Adams is drawing a 3rd-round pick, then Thuney was right in the ballpark of a 3rd or a 4th. So It's not that crazy. Everybody's got to take a step back. Realize that Brett Veach is building something, And look, if you don't get rid of Thuney and you don't free up that $16 million, how are you getting cap compliant, Steve? Did you have any ideas on how to do it? I don't think it was that easy.
I don't think it even matters. I don't think a lot of teams are cap compliant.
But I'm just saying, well, there was 4 or 5 teams that had to get there pretty soon. The Chiefs were one of them.
Well, my thing about this is you can look at it from the Chicago Bears perspective, and that's a steal for them, right? They got an all-pro left guard for a 4th-round pick, so that's great for them. But also on the flip side, this thing can be good for both sides, and it is, and I think that's why this trade took place. Love Joe Thuney. Can't say enough good things about Joe Thuney, and thank him for all the work he put in with the Chiefs. I mean, Joe Thuney's a 4-time Super Bowl champion, 3 with the Chiefs, baby. He's gonna go down as a Chiefs legend, and he did some things while he was here, and we're gonna remember that. But it's fine. You have to move on eventually, and that's just how it goes, man. It's just kind of the first step.
Does he only have 2 of the Chiefs?
Maybe it is. Maybe it's 3.
I think he's got 4. He got 2 of the Pats and 2 of the Chiefs.
Okay,
is that
whatever.
the way it is?
Sure. Either way, he's a 4-time Super Bowl champion. Joe Thuney's a monster. He's great, and like I said, thanks for everything that he did in Kansas City. But it's time to turn the page a little bit. It's time to freshen things up. Mahomes cut his hair. We traded Joe Thuney. Things are changing. Travis Kelce's got a walker on the field now. I mean, it's just not the same as it used to be.
Well, the whole tag and trade thing with Trey Smith is probably out. I just don't see how the Chiefs don't have a left tackle. They trade off the left guard, and then you tag and trade the right guard. And Jawan Taylor's pretty underperforming, right? He's going to leave Creed Humphrey on an island by himself. Exactly. So Trey Smith was the guy that they chose over Joe Thuney. Why? He's younger. He's this. He's that. They took Trey Smith, okay, and when they tagged him, the writing was on the wall. I didn't think they would trade Thuney, but we also talked about how they had to do something with the contract. They had to restructure. They had to do something. So a trade was right there. So maybe the tag and trade idea was not too far off, but maybe you should have been looking at the other guy. You're not tagging both people, and you're definitely not tagging Thuney. You can't tag Thuney. He was under contract. But point is you kind of had that, well, if they can't get a contract worked out, maybe they could trade Thuney. And they did, and that's what they chose to do. And again, now you've got the center, you're going to have the right guard, and you've got a right tackle, like him or not. He's under contract for at least 1 more year. So the right side looks to be okay. The Chiefs now have to go aggressively and try to figure out this left side. Is it Kingsley? Is it Wanye at left tackle or left guard? Is it DJ Humphries? Is it DJ Humphries plus a draft pick? What could it be? I don't know exactly. Brett Veach is figuring something out. Like he knows they've got a plan in place. I think that he knows he can't drop the ball on the tackle position. The last time I feel like we seen this was the time he went out and made that big trade, for Orlando Brown Jr. It was back after the Super Bowl when we got spanked by the Bucs. So there's a plan in place. This pretty much puts well, maybe it don't. If you free up enough cap, Steve, is it possible the Chiefs could be looking at like a Devante Adams or somebody like that now on a cheap deal? If they'll come here, I'm not saying Devante Adams would come here on a cheap deal, but if you're looking for a ring, what if him and D-Hop are like, hey, we'll get together and both play for $2 million per year for a season? Wouldn't that be wild?
That'd be weird. A couple of old guys just out there kicking ass. It could be
Hopkins and Devante Adams and Xavier Worthy, and
so
that's
no,
insane.
I don't think you're going to see any of that. Really,
I don't think you do either.
Devante Adams, the only reason why we're even talking about this is just because it's been something that's been thrown around a lot since the Jets have released his old ass. But
NBC actually, well, the reason is because NBC yesterday named the Chiefs and the Saints as the top 2 landing spots. So they think it's a real possibility if the money could be right and Devante Adams wants to win. Like if you want to win a championship, there's only a few places. This means he'll end up in Philadelphia on a backloaded. He'll get paid till he goes to the grave.
I mean, Philadelphia has become that team that just tries to build a super team every year, aren't they? So I mean,
they're
you never
right
know.
Up there.
You never know. We'll see how that goes. They're going to try to get Myles Garrett. They'll sacrifice their firstborn child to get.
Actually, heard Myles Garrett coming out of the combine. Big rumor that the Browns have zero. I'm talking zero negative interest in trading Myles Garrett. So. That's a little wild, but yeah, he might end up with the Texans the way they're starting to do it. Right? They got on the build the super team train last year.
Yeah, that seems to be the thing to do now. But no, I mean, appreciate you all being here, by the way. Good morning. Wasn't expecting the Joe Thuney trade news, but here it is. Here we are. Do us a favor, hit that like button for us if you don't mind. It helps us out. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you can do that as well. We'll be doing tons of Chiefs content all season long. We never stop. We got a bunch of off-season stuff planned. Released a video yesterday, Mike. Put out our top 10 wide receivers in this draft. Pretty good video. If you didn't get a chance to catch that one, go watch that after this live stream today. Help your boys out. Help your boys out. YouTube's kind of got us in the pit a little bit. It's the off season. You might have to go digging for the video. They're not just going to show it to you like everybody else, but, you know, go do that. So, I mean, ultimately, though, it's just kind of shaking things up a little bit. I think it was time for some changes to take place within this team. Obviously, Andy Reid and the coaching staff still going to, it doesn't look like much is going to change there. I know a lot of people were real horny about Matt Nagy maybe getting fired. And I don't think we're going to see that. Potentially, maybe, but right now, I don't think that's on the to-do list. Just wondering kind of what this trade means going forward. I know it is just opening up cap space, and you did get a valuable draft pick out of it as well. But do you think it is in line with another move that's coming? Do you think this is the first domino? Or do you think this is just a move that needed to be made?
This is a domino that had to fall to re-sign Trey Smith long term.
You think that was a plan all along? Tag Trey Smith, and then we can hawk Joe Thuney off and keep him.
Well, not necessarily the hawk him off kind of thing, but it's one of the things where you're like, well, we knew he had to do something with the contract. They wasn't paying him $16 million this year, so it just depends. Like, they had to restructure. There's a lot of things they have to do, but that was back to my point earlier. If you didn't do this, and this $16 million wasn't an easy free up or whatever, do you think, like, how are you going to get all this accomplished? How are you going to have enough money to be able to sign this and to re-sign Trey Smith and to go get this and that and sign draft picks? I know you can move money around a lot. You really can. Like, I think Jawan Taylor needs to be restructured.
Yeah.
Surely that's on the short list of things to do. Yeah,
there's a lot more
I think this just got the ball rolling. And honestly, it kind of sounded like this came out of nowhere. It sounded like Ryan Poles just picked up the phone and was like, look, man, kind of want Joe Thuney. What do you guys give me? We'll give you like a
cheeseburgers, man.
Yeah, like it sounded like it went quick. It didn't even take 2 hours to hammer out this trade. We seen like some of the Snead trades going on for weeks last year.
Yeah, this one was pretty quick and out of the blue. I mean, I didn't really
Which means Brett Veach thinks he got a steal for a 4th-round pick.
I don't think he
if it went that quick.
I think
do you think
I
Brett
just think
Veach,
it was a good trade for both sides, right? I mean, honestly.
That's what I'm saying. Both thought 4th round was very fair, or it would have went way longer.
I think it serves the purpose for both teams, right? I mean, you got Chicago, who's in desperation mode of trying to get some kind of protection for Caleb Williams over there, and then you have Brett Veach on the other side of the fence that has to free up some cap space, has a left tackle position to figure out, has a lot of guys he's drafted in the last few years that haven't panned out at tackle that he could probably plug in at guard. I just think this goes and you just need
draft capital. The way Brett Veach has built this, you live and die off the draft, and basically it's our defense.
Yeah, we got Perry with the 2-bomb. He says, I just think we needed a pick for this draft. Well, we got a pick for next year's draft. So, but like Mike was saying earlier, I think that could also be used to move up and down the boards this year. I think that you're going to see more moves for draft capital. I read a story yesterday, Mike, about freaking Sky Moore and how he's working hard all off season and this whole last season to come into his own in the NFL and blah, blah, blah. I think Sky Moore, let's see if somebody can give us a 6th or 7th round pick for him. I think there's a couple of other guys they could consider trading off for some draft capital.
For Joe Thuney, Sky Moore is going to get
a bag of Doritos,
a stale bag of Doritos, like one that was opened and left in your car.
Cool Ranch Doritos, like they're not as good as the nacho cheese.
A lot of people like Cool Ranch, and I don't think people would go for it.
I don't know, but I do think there's some players. Maybe we could see them move some of these guys that just haven't panned out and just see if we can get some draft capital. I know we don't have as much in this draft as Brett Veach normally likes to have. So definitely wouldn't be surprised to see some more moves taking place. Our boy Kyle with the 5 bombs. His training camp for the O-line should be very interesting to watch this year. Yeah, I mean, figuring out how this is going to play out and who's going to win those positions, it should be really fun, Kyle. We'll see what happens with the left tackle. Do you think they'll go out and potentially try to get a Ronnie Stanley or somebody like that, and it's just like there's no discussion? Or do they re-sign DJ Humphrey and they're like, hey, this is what we're doing. There's no discussion on left tackle? Or I don't know. It's just going to be kind of depending on what they decide to do with the left tackle to see how the left guard thing plays out, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to make any kind of moves to get another guard or anything like that. If anyone's thinking that's out of the question. I think they think that we have what we need in the house.
Yeah, I think that you could just about put Kingsley or Wanye at that left guard if need be, and they're going to be fine. If not, you've got enough rotational pieces there, and you've also got, like you said, Caliendo on the back burner. He's now played a few games. Andy Reid likes Caliendo. He's liked him ever since he's come out. He's always consistently made the practice squad. He's consistently worked himself into the lineup now, getting on the roster. So I think they're fine with the guard position. But, yeah, with the tackle, man, I do think DJ Humphries, you could go with a cheap one-year prove-it deal with DJ, and you could still invest, and you must invest somehow. Either it's sign a veteran again, go out and take another look at some of the older guys maybe, bring in a young dude off free agency, or just draft. But you have to invest more into it than just DJ Humphries. But DJ Humphries can be a little bit of a stopgap.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they're going to do.
You could hit with DJ Humphries this year. He's got capability to be a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, I mean, he's been there. I think definitely what we saw from DJ Humphries this year, it was out of the norm. He was coming off of an injury. He'd not played in a year and a half. He got kind of thrown in there. Didn't really know the offense that well, stuff like that. I mean, his poor performance this year, I think that's something that you can kind of look over, to be quite honest. I don't think it was a reflection of what DJ Humphries actually is. So, a lot of people wanted him playing in the Super Bowl and stuff like that. I was not a fan of that just by what we had seen so far. But I do think if he gets the full off season and he actually gets that role and he has time to settle into it and learn this offense and learn his surroundings, I think that DJ Humphries could be a viable option.
Do you think this move today possibly could free up enough cap space to get Trey Smith taken care of and maybe get Nick Bolton back?
Potentially. I mean, you open the doors for a lot of
Chiefs
stuff
fans
when
be
you
fine
save
with
$16 million.
As a hypothetical, would you be fine with getting back both Trey Smith and Nick Bolton if that means you had to ship Thuney out for a 4th-round pick? Like, are you fine with that deal, or would you have rather had Thuney and...
Well, I think a lot of the people are going to just freak out because it's offensive line, and we just saw what happened in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. So everybody's got their laser focus on the offensive line. We have to protect Pat, and we can't do anything that can hinder that. And now you're kind of gambling with your left side of the offensive line. Even if you go with DJ Humphries, a lot of people see that as a gamble.
It is.
Which is weird because I think it's a gamble. But the same people that saying it's a gamble now were the same people saying he should start in the Super Bowl even though he hadn't played. Like, they were ready to gamble that.
Ready to gamble that one, huh?
Yeah, so it's kind of strange.
Over what? Because he provided better run blocking, in which Andy Reid ran the ball 2 times in the first half.
3, get it right.
So
Andy got a little crazy.
All that vital run blocking we needed.
Yeah, but no, I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the left side of the line here. But you're right, man. I mean, opening up that $16 million, that kind of brings up a lot of different possibilities. You could retain some more players. You could go get new talent. You mentioned restructuring Juwan Taylor. I think that has to be on the to-do list. Restructuring Travis Kelce has to be on the to-do list. Restructuring Patrick Mahomes is on the to-do list. I think there's going to be a lot of money freed up. And I think that Brett Veach is going to have an opportunity to make some moves that he wants to make. The problem is with left tackle, Mike, no one's trying to give up their left tackle. People talk about going and trading for one or this or that. No one wants to give up their left tackle. The Chiefs have somehow backed themselves into a corner in these last few years to where we are just kind of screwed on the left tackle thing. Like, we're literally throwing darts at left tackles to try to get one to stick. And the reason why is we didn't invest in it. And these other teams, they're not stupid. They see this. If they have one, they're not trying to give them up. So I think we're still going to kind of be in that predicament where it's like,
I don't know how the Chiefs got themselves in a predicament with left tackle under the golden run of the greatest quarterback to ever live.
It's pretty freaking wild, especially when we saw what happened in the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when Fish went out hurt. We saw what happened there. So you know the damage that can be done when you can't block the blind side of Mahomes. And then we repeated history, man. I really don't think it was what people say. Like even we've said, like Brett Veach has kind of just overlooked it or he's neglected it or whatever. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think Brett Veach has been doing everything he can do to kind of patch that up, but it just doesn't work out when you can't draft one of the top left tackles in the draft, or you can't.
Yeah, when you can't get a top 10 pick, you're not getting a top tier left tackle. And yes, you can hit them late, but it's a crapshoot the same way everything else is. So it makes it really hard to hit them late. Then you have to draft on potential. And so that's what they did last year, and that didn't pan out very quickly. It still could in the future. Who knows? I still don't think Kingsley's going to be a left tackle when it's all said and done. But even on free agency, who are you going to get over the past few years? Either they're signing ungodly contracts that we can't afford, or there's just nobody really out there, and they're still signing ungodly contracts. So I don't think Brett Veach is going to make the decision to overpay somebody that's not worth it. That's why you didn't see the Orlando Brown thing. But honestly, I think the Orlando Brown thing would have been better off and just underpaid the right tackle. I would have much rather be working on a right tackle right now than a left tackle, and having Orlando Brown, even as like I don't even know the word, like inconsistent, I guess, from Orlando Brown. Like we know that he was a liability a lot of the times, but Patrick Mahomes did like him. He probably wasn't worth what he was paid, but honestly, we were winning. We were winning Super Bowls there. So, right. Well, I feel like the right tackle maybe could have been the carousel, right? And hindsight's 20/20, and I still don't think he was worth the money. But at the end of the day, like you said, where's it coming from?
Let me throw out some scenarios here, and you're going to give a percentage on the likelihood of them. Okay, so we'll start. We'll start with DJ Humphries is your left tackle for the Chiefs next season.
I give that probably a good, right now, 50 to 60%.
Okay, the Chiefs sign a free agent like Ronnie Stanley to play left tackle next season.
30%.
The Chiefs trade up into the first round to try to draft a left tackle for next season.
How high?
Top 15.
Top 15? 10%.
All right. Kingsley Suamataia and or Wanye Morris play left tackle next season.
25%. I think you have a better shot of seeing those two get back at left tackle than for them to trade up.
The Chiefs trade for a premier left tackle.
That's almost slim to none.
That's what I'm saying,
Nobody's giving it up.
Yeah. I just think that's...
Again, I've looked through all the left tackles. The only one I could see maybe moving would be Walker Little, that used to play at Stanford, that now plays. But do you think Liam Cohen's going to give up his left tackle now? That he's going to come in and try to win an offense? You think he's going to give up his left tackle? And that may be the only guy you could grab that would be worth it.
Yeah, so I mean, this is going to be the talk, man. This is going to be the talk in the foreseeable future for Chiefs content creators, for Chiefs fans, for everything else. It's like, how are they going to shore up this left side of the offensive line, especially now that Joe Thuney has been traded? So that's definitely going to be a lot of talk. Mike, let's get to the other subject real quick. Before we do, thanks for being here. Good morning if you're just rolling in. Good morning, Chiefs Kingdom. It's been a day already. Do us a favor, hit that like button for us. If you're watching on Facebook or X, make sure to share that out to your followers, friends, and family. And friends, do your boy a favor and hit that like button. All right, Mike. Devante Adams. We touched on it for a quick second. Like you said, it's a story that's out. There's been a lot of people saying blah, blah, blah. But this happens every season. And every time there's a wide receiver that's available, they're always linked to the Chiefs. We've already seen it with Stephon Diggs, with DK Metcalf, and several other guys. And here we are, as soon as Devante Adams is available, now that's the talk, is that he could be a Chief. We were just playing the probability game, Mike. So give us a percentage. What do you think the likelihood of Devante Adams being a Chiefs this coming season is?
Lower than D-Hop, in my opinion.
I think it's pretty much zero. I think it's zero.
I think it's like 0 to 10%, somewhere in that range. I think D-Hop coming back somewhere around the 30 to 40 to 50%. And now that they've got a little bit of money freed up, you could see them throw a little bit more money at Marquise Hollywood Brown. So you got a possibility there, but I still think the Chiefs are going to have to draft wide receiver.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like that idea, especially like we put out our video yesterday where we talked about the top 10 wide receivers that, that we think are in the draft coming up. A lot of people in the comments were just like, Chiefs can't draft another receiver. They don't need another receiver. They have other stuff to worry about.
I agree. In the first round.
I agree with it too. But I'm telling you right now, if Luther Burden or one of those guys is sitting there at the end of the first round, I would not put it past Brett Veach to go ahead and invest again. I wouldn't. And that's the thing about it. Like, what happens in a draft, Mike, when you have to go after a specific position? If you go into the draft knowing I have to have a left tackle, it kind of ruins your draft. Like, you're not going to do well. You're not going to hit on that pick. But
unless
if you go
you're willing to move capital and move around to get your guy.
But if you go into the draft as, hey, we're going to take the best value on the board, no matter what the position is, we're just going to draft the best football players that are available when we pick. That's usually where you'll hit on your guys. So I don't put it past Brett Veach to do something like that. But either way, Devante Adams, I think, is a long shot for the Chiefs. To me, I just don't see the point. I think if they go out and they invest in anyone in the wide receiver position that's not the draft this year, I think it would be them trying to figure out a trade with Seattle for DK Metcalf. And the only reason I say that is because he's more valuable to this team than Devante Adams would be. He's more valuable to this team than D-Hop was. He's more valuable to this team than most any ex-receiver in football because of his speed and his play style. And the only reason I think that is even a possibility is because not only are there talks about it that are legitimate, there were talks last year. We've heard Brett Veach talk about how he can't sleep at night because he drafted McCole Hardman over the guy. So we know he loves him. So I think that's a possibility. Otherwise, I think receiver you might see mid to late draft, and that's all we'll do. Because it's going to be left tackle, left guard. What are we doing over here on this left side of the offensive line? That's what's going to be talked about the most.
Well, look, if you've already come to the conclusion that you are not giving up draft capital to get into the top 15 to get a tackle, is there even a top left tackle in the draft that you could 100% trust?
Look, bro, there's one guy that I think is an obvious first, early draft pick at left tackle, and I don't have the most faith in the world that he would be able to slide in and play that left tackle
position. You're gonna say M'Bu?
Yeah, I just don't. Do you think any of them are plug and play? Because I just don't see it this year. Like last year, we had Joe Alt, we knew was a plug and play. This year, I don't see that type of guy. I just don't. Like there's definitely some guys that can do it, have good, a good ceiling. Probably need some time to develop. But I just don't see a plug and play type guy.
Right. I mean, look, you're not going to get your hands on M'Bu unless you get into the top 10 to 15. Will Campbell out of LSU, you probably the same thing there.
Yeah, I mean,
you got Josh Simmons coming off of that injury last year. It's possible he could slip late. You could take a shot there. But again, are you still comfortable putting a rookie coming off of a knee injury and just an unknown and throwing him to the Wolves again?
Yeah, it's just you can't do that. I just think that's a poor decision. Like if you're going to gamble, I mean, I don't get it because we already saw what happened.
Here's what I do. If I'm Brett Veach, I gamble two ways. If I want to take a left tackle, I'm not going up to get him. I'm going to sit where I am, and I'm going to move back, and I'm going to acquire more picks and take a tackle that way. So I will move back into the second round. I will pick up a later pick, and I will take a tackle with that first pick in the second round. You could probably snag like an Ariante Ursary from Minnesota, who's also from the KC area, okay? Big boy, 6'6", 331, and at minimum, he's going to be able to play right tackle for you and probably kick down into guard if you need it. So that would be a great pick. A Wyatt Milam out of West Virginia. You could almost look at that kid. 6'6.5", 313. He's been a stud at West Virginia, especially filling in for Zach Frazier after they lost him last year. So you've got a few guys right there. Maybe even the Josh Simmons. I think he falls out of the first round more than likely because of that injury. So you can take those now if you trade yourself back into the second round, because now you get those guys. You get an Ursary, you get a Milam, you get a Josh Simmons, but you also acquired a pick by doing that, right? So you get them and a pick. So
Right.
I would do it that way. Or you've got to play it at the end of the second round again with Kingsley, or the end of the third round, and you're going to have to move up to the front of the third or the front, mid-second, mid-third. You've got to either come up from those mids to get to the middle of the round second, middle round third, or you're going to have to fall back out of the first and go to the middle of the round second. I think that's the way you got to play it. Your value with tackle is sitting somewhere around the 40 to 60 range. So anything over the top 30, unless somebody slides down the board, and there's going to be a reason a Will Campbell slides down the board, or a Kelvin Banks Jr., or Armand Mimbu, any of those guys. If they're going to fall to you at where the Chiefs are picking, there's something wrong with them. People are seeing something that's just not panning out, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. Amy, been a member for 13 months now, says, so do you think Veach is done trading players to pick up more picks? I don't. I think Brett Veach will try to get more draft capital in this year's draft. I do. He likes to have those picks to play around with. He likes to move up and down the boards. That's just what he does. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some type of trade or something to acquire more draft capital for this season in this draft. Jesus with the 2 says, can they afford to trade up money-wise and cap? So what he's asking is if they trade up early into the first round, take a guy like that, do they even have the cap space to pay him? And I'm sure
it's capped at a certain
but
number.
And I'm sure that would be taken into accountability as well. If that's what they're going to do, they're going to make sure that they have it. So Mike, I'm more with you. I think that they would be looking at a late first to second round type guy to draft as far as the tackle goes. But here's the thing, if that's what you're doing, then you're signing DJ Humphries back and he's starting
100%. And I think that's what you do.
You have to, because you cannot roll the dice again. We saw what happened this year when they were like, hey, we got Wanye, we got Kingsley. We drafted Kingsley.
They just named Kingsley the starter.
Yeah,
this kid wasn't even playing in the preseason.
It's wild. I think it had a lot to do with Wanye's injury, but I just think Wanye wasn't the answer either, obviously. Appreciate the 2, Jesus. Amy with the 5 bomb says, I would rather go for DK and then the draft any of the following wide receivers. Jaden Higgins, Besh, Knoll, or Nash. So you would rather... I'm probably misreading this, but you would rather get one of these guys and go for DK? I think that's what she's trying to say. What do you think, Mike? I think if you want to play her his style, I think you're more looking at like Royals,
might be.
right?
I think she might be saying she would rather go for DK than draft one of these guys rather than trying to pull in a bunch of free agents. Possibly. Yeah. Either way, I like DK. I like DK for the Chiefs. Do I think the Chiefs would still use him in the proper way? More than likely not. Like, I still don't see Patrick Mahomes throwing up 50-50 balls a lot, throwing in the tight spaces a lot. He just don't want to do it.
That's the thing. I don't think you have to do that with DK. DK's not that guy that does that. DK gets separation. DK's a little bit different.
You need a guy, and that's what DK offers. You need a guy that is more athletic and more reliable than your Sammy Watkins position, your Justin Watson we had to use last year, your MVS. You need a guy in the offense that can do what they do, but be more athletic and more reliable and just better hands, better everything, right? Because we missed that a little bit last year. We didn't have that a lot. That's why a lot of people were kind of wanting MVS back when he become available. And that's insane, but
absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, who knows? Hindsight's 2020, but I'm with her. I do like DK, and out of all those guys, yes, Jaden Higgins is probably your guy that would play that MVS role to a T. I don't think you're going to get that out Jalen Noel. Jalen Noel's a little guy.
So what is the MVS
Well, because you
role?
don't have Justin
Blocking?
Watson back this year either.
Okay.
No, because how many deep shots does Patrick Mahomes tend to take to Justin Watson and MVS? He took a lot of those. And MVS made a lot of plays. He dropped
more
a lot.
than anybody else, then yeah. But Patrick Mahomes just don't take him a lot of deep shots anymore. And I think
a few.
And I think most of the deep shots are going to be going to Xavier Worthy. I think that's the obvious thing here. Like for me, I think like what would be ideal for you, man, in this situation, if they were able to get a DK Metcalf and then draft like Jack Besh or something like that. Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice because Besh is going to play anywhere. I don't think Besh is just going to be a straight up X receiver or a slot guy. Like he can play anywhere, even H back if you need to. He could probably play some tight end. He's going to play all over the map. So Besh is your best movement piece. I think if you want to play X wide receiver, it's Jaden Higgins. And if you want another slot guy that can be a playmaker, it's Jalen Noel. Nick Nash out of San Jose State. Sorry, buddy. You'd probably be left out because I just don't feel like he's more of a chief guy. But, I mean, Nick Nash is probably going to be an MVS type of player.
Why are you going to knock that kid like that, bro?
I'm not. I'm just saying if you told Nick Nash that you're going to be as good as MVS in the league, he's probably going to take it because for every MVS you've got somebody that sucks worse than don't even make a roster.
You're going to play with elite quarterbacks for the first half of your career, and you're going to
win some Super Bowls, man. And you're going to make a little bit of money. I mean, whatever. Not the worst.
We got Anthony with the 5 bombs. Says Connerly in the first at left guard. What do you think about that one, Michael?
Connerly in the first at left guard.
I don't know.
I don't think you need a guard. You don't have to spend a first round pick on a guard. You just don't need it. Josh Connerly is also 6'5", 311, and his arm length is 33.5. So he's got big enough arms to play tackle.
But most of these guys, their arm length falls under what the Chiefs normally like to draft. I don't even think.
What do the Chiefs do? 33 and a half or something like that?
Usually plus, right? And then like this year, I don't think there's anybody even fits the mold. I think all these guys got shorter arms.
Charles Grant out of William and Mary, and I'm pretty sure that's who the Chiefs have talked to already. He's got 34 and 7/8 inch arms or something like that. 34 and 3/4.
Some long ass arms.
He's got some big arms. There's Jalen Travis out of Iowa State's got some big arms. He's almost got 34-inch arms. Miles Hinton out of Michigan's got over 34-inch arms.
I hate the measurable crap so much. You know, I really do.
The reason that's so important with a tackle is because you don't let people into your body. You can extend and you can punch. You can keep them off of you.
So if
it's valuable.
If your arms a quarter,
that's why Joe Thuney struggled in the Super Bowl. They found a way to get into his body.
If you just had a quarter-inch longer arm,
it's very possible.
I don't know. I can't buy that. Richie, been a member for 12 months now. Is this
Steve's
year
not buying.
the Chiefs?
Steve, wait, you're not buying the draft consensus that's went through the beginning of time. You're just going to overdo it.
I mean, how many times do you go by these measurables and come back
Joe
to bite
Thuney
you?
played left guard because he played tackle in college, and they said his arms weren't long enough, and he would let people into his body. That's why he wouldn't be a good tackle. And then that's exactly what you've seen. So you don't think there's nothing to the arm length?
I'm sure there's something to it, but I really think it's like overdone. Like, I mean, really, are you really sitting here trying to tell me that a quarter inch of an arm on an arm length is going to make the difference on a player?
I don't think somebody like from 34 to 33 and a half is that big of a deal, but I do think if you're under 33, if you're down to like the 32s, yeah, that's an inch to 2 inches.
You got little T-Rex arms.
Yeah, you got little baby arms.
Anyway, Richie says, is this the year the Chiefs let Sky, Hardman, and Watson go? Check.
Justin Watson's not under contract right now, so
I would love to see it. It's time to move on from some of these guys, man.
Neither is Nicole.
I feel like, there's a fine line you have to walk when you're in dynasty mode as to getting value players and getting the best out of them. But also, it's just getting really stale.
Steve, me and you have found a guy that can not only do Justin Watson,
he is
Justin Watson, and he's probably better than Justin Watson coming out of the draft. And we'll talk about him a little bit later on. But we found a Justin Watson replacement. If you really want everything about Justin Watson, we found it.
What is there to replace? Like, that's the thing. And
I'm just saying, if
glad
Brett Veach just loves the body style and just everything about him,
I get it. I'm glad Richie brought this up, though, because these three guys, this is a good example of the kind of shit that we don't need to continue to do.
Right.
Like, these three people have literally took up a roster spot. They've took money. They've took draft capital from us for no reason. They're not useful. Now, Justin Watson, maybe a little bit more than the other two. Hardman had his moments. But literally, they're like guys that are going to make 2 to 3 plays an entire effing football season for you. And we continue to put them on their roster and house our roster with a bunch of mid-ass football players when we don't have to. we're beyond that. We don't do that no more. I'd much rather figure something else out, and I think this is the year maybe they can move on from those guys.
I would think they do. Sky's going to be the hardest to move on from because he's the only one under contract.
Well, surely to God, somebody out there. I mean, honestly, let's be honest. I just
think they could cut him if they have to. I don't think he makes the roster this season unless something bad happens.
But you don't think that he's worth like a 6th or 7th round pick. If you're an outside team and you see that kid's ability, you see him coming out of college, you know what he could be, and maybe you see it for the same perspective, the same lens that Mike, you've seen it through for the last few years. Maybe Sky Moore's just not good in this.
I think he could garner a conditional 7th.
I think they could get something from him. So why not? Just go ahead and get rid of him, and then the other two they can just walk. I mean, I really would be kind of irritated if I see they signed back Justin Watson, they signed back McCole Hart. I'm like, why?
I don't think it's needed. I don't think it's needed at this point. In my opinion, you could go to the draft and take somebody in the 6th round that's going to give you more upside than those two guys, more than likely. At least long term,
totally
you got a little bit of, you got a little bit of like hope.
I totally agree with you, man. I think we go younger, we go different. It's time to freshen up a little bit, dude. This stale stuff's got to stop. Anything that could possibly spark the offense a little bit, because those guys are not it. Chief KT with a 2 bomb says, "How the F we broke and Mahomes isn't top 10 paid." I think it's because people are chasing Mahomes, right? I think we talked about this a little bit, but like people will overpay a quarterback just because they think they can maybe contend with Mahomes or beat Mahomes. You've been seeing people cash in on that.
Not to mention Mahomes' contract's laid out so differently. Like, yeah, he's not at the top of all the number game, but he makes bank.
Well, once again, we're broke, but we just, saved $16 million in cap space with the Thuney trade. Obviously, people don't like that, but that's the fact of the matter. That was probably 85% of why Thuney was traded, just to free up some cap
easily.
Space. Okay, and then on top of that, I already mentioned Juwan Taylor. They got to take a look at his. Travis Kelce, they have to take a look at his. Love the fact that Travis Kelce didn't want to go out on that note. Wanted to come back and play another year. Love Travis Kelce. Want him here. Cannot pay him what he's getting paid to do what he's doing.
You can maybe turn these into like signing bonuses, some cash, like they do Mahomes every year. There's some
they're
options
going to do that
got.
with Mahomes too. I mean, like I said earlier, I think they're going to be able to free up a decent amount of cash in this cap space and figure out how to make some moves here. I do think that the Thuney thing was the first domino, and we'll probably see some stuff coming up, man. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they're going to start working with McDuffie and Karlaftis long term. I think it's still just kind of
get ahead of it. Do it.
It kind of, in my opinion, though, is putting a cap on what they could do with Nick Bolton and Omenihu, in a way.
Yeah. We got XRP with the 5 bomb. Says Veach is going deceptive and moving on from Bolton and Reed. Draft hard at DJ Humphrey is left tackle. Get the cap right, moving forward and fill in the gaps. They're not going to be able to pay Justin Reed. I actually read a report, Mike, that they think he might go to Denver. That'd be kind of
there's a history of Chiefs guys going to Denver.
Right, but then of course Bolton. Here's the thing: I do think they freed up some money to try to retain these guys. But actually, I'm with you, Mike. I think it's more for Trey Smith than anything. Trying to get a contract done with him. I mean, we tagged him. I don't think you pay him the tag.
You're not paying him 24.
You're not paying him that
million.
much. So they're going to get a deal worked out with him, and I think that's what kind of Thuney alleviated as a pressure off of that. Could they help? Could it help with Bolton? Sure, but I'm not so sure that the Chiefs are. I'm not so sure that the Chiefs make Bolton as much of a priority as I originally thought they were going to. I don't. At this point, I kind of just feel like
I think Spags wants them to, but even XRP here says the same thing. By the way, love the name. Diamond handed up there with XRP, brother. Mm-hmm. I don't see how the Chiefs can't take draft capital and start just like they've got to start just drafting defense. Like you've got to get another defensive tackle. You need another edge rusher. You probably need a safety here in a few years unless you're committed to Brian Cook long term. Who's committed to Brian Cook long term? I know I'm not in that boat.
No.
Are you?
No.
You're going to re-sign back. You're going to re-sign back Trent McDuffie, but are you re-signing back Jalen Watson for what he's probably going to want? Are you going to get back Josh Williams because they don't even play Josh Williams? Like where we had drafted all those guys, the Nick Joneses, all those dudes that we thought were going to be good and were good, and the Chiefs have just kind of just pushed them to the back burner. Even Najee Johnson at this point, it's like, I don't know if you commit to him long term. So you may be drafting a corner this year. It's very possible.
Definitely in play. Like I said, I don't think there's anything specific that Veach is going to go into this draft looking for. I just don't think that's how you can draft at this point. I think you have to take pure value, get the best football players you can get. I don't think it matters where they're playing at. I don't think you can just go in there and be like, I have to get a tackle. I have to.
Right.
I just don't think that's how you can do it. Appreciate the 5 XRP. Then we got 5 from Godplar. That Thuney trade basically solidifies that Kingsley will be our other guard to me.
Possible.
I know Lance from the Spoken Heat posted that immediately. A picture of Kingsley and said, "Well, here's your new left guard." I'm sorry. I think that it could be, but don't you think Wanye's in that mix too? I think Wanye's eventually just going to be a guard, unless they're planning on making him a right tackle after Juwan Taylor moves on.
That's possible.
I don't know. We got a couple of guys.
These are all these guys are very fluid. They can go just about any position, right? So I think you're fine with whoever they take, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Kingsley don't take the left guard position this year. It just wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, do you think Norzad or any of those guys have a shot of getting in the mix?
Not over Kingsley, not over Wanye. Norzad's fine. I feel like Norzad's not as polished to play the left. I mean, but then again, who knows? It's not like Kingsley and Wanye are just lights out left guards either, more than likely. So maybe he is there. I think he's a little bit higher up than CJ Hansen right now.
Yeah. Oh, CJ Hansen. What about it? What's he even doing now? Did he even make the roster? Or was he on a practice squad?
He made the practice squad, maybe. He was on the practice squad. He was bouncing back and forth.
What about Lucas Yang? Did we ever get rid of him, or was he on the practice squad?
No, he was here all year, but they didn't feel the need to ever play him.
It's funny because a lot of people talk about how they neglected the offensive line, but we can sit here and list off all these people. They keep investing in the offensive line in the draft.
Yeah, they're just not hitting.
Not hitting.
Or you're not developing, whichever one.
A little bit of both, I think. Not for sure. Yeah, but I do think there will be some more moves to get some more draft capital. Veach is definitely going to want some more draft capital to play with. I just think that's a thing. We've seen him do that every draft, really. He likes to move up and down the boards.
K-Wayne, that's mean.
K-Wayne, you should be driving the team bus. That should be your new job. Would you take that gig? Will you stop what you're doing right now and drive the Chiefs bus?
You better pay a lot.
Do it. Get us in.
Steve, our wide receiver, our initial top 10 wide receiver video came out yesterday. I thought it was a pretty solid list. After we released that list, I went back and I looked at some Mel Kiper list, Daniel Jeremiah. I went back and looked at a few lists, and our list is a little different than theirs. It's not 100% like spot on. So we see some things that maybe they didn't see, or they're seeing some things from guys that we didn't put in. So, for example, some of the craziness, Steve, is a lot of them guys had Isaiah Bond in the top 10, and after the combine, we didn't feel like Isaiah Bond was all that special.
Well, agreed, but I do think he's a good player. I think
he was fast. He ran a 4.39 with a 1.51.10, which are both super elite.
Right. Well, I mean, just full transparency. Usually when we come up with a top 10, I'll watch a lot of tape. I'll have my top 10. Mike watches the tape. He does his top 10. We kind of put them together, collaborate a little bit, and then come up with a good idea of what we want to do. And I think I had Isaiah Bond in mind. You did not.
I can't do it, and I'm going to tell you why. For one, he was the playmaking guy at the beginning of the season, and for whatever reason, he lost his job. Matthew Golden come to the forefront, and Matthew Golden actually impressed the crap out of me at the combine. Like, to me, Matthew Golden, before the season started, was not even on a radar. And right now, we ranked him at number 4. And I feel like even at number 4, it's very possible he could be in the mix to be the second guy off the board.
Right. Well, Sam makes a really good point here, Mike. Usually when we're looking at these guys, we're looking through a Chiefs lens.
Yeah.
And Mel Kiper and those guys are not. They're just talking about overall. So it's going to be a little bit different. But yeah, if y'all didn't get to watch that video, go watch that after this is done. If you did get to watch the video and y'all saw it, let us know in the comments if you liked the list, what you did or didn't like about it. I think there's one thing that me and Mike had probably the most conflict about, or probably the most back and forth over, was Luther Burden. I think that was the biggest conversation we had. I strongly think he's a top 3. Like, I
Who
really
are you pulling
do.
out of the top 3, though, put him in there?
I think he's definitely above Matthew Golden. I think that, which if we had it number
You think
4.
he's definitely above Matthew Golden after Matthew Golden just ran a 4.29?
Yes. I do. I don't go just off of, I don't care about the 40 speed. I watched the tape. I watched the full package, man. Like, Luther Burden is a dog. Like, there's a lot to that kid. Now, getting it out of him, that could be the problem. So, I mean, I know that's something that you don't like about him, is maybe a little bit of the effort sometimes, or does it kind of give you that, does it kind of give you that vibe of somebody that just has all the physical traits in the world and all the talent in the world, but they kind of rely on that? Is that what you see out of him? Like, what makes you think that he's lower than Matthew Golden? I should ask.
I seen a guy that, again, his production dropped off in 2024 from 2023. He didn't look like the same guy. His quarterback did not change. His quarterback is fine. Like, he was fine.
He was very inconsistent play, though. And his quarterback had some injuries, so.
I felt like, so there's one. You got a little bit of that to make up for. I mean, I seen that he's just super inconsistent on finishing his routes, which we talked about that last year. And even Xavier Worthy had a little bit of that to him.
Yeah.
All the Texas guys did. So, but Matthew Golden didn't have that this year. So it wasn't just a Texas thing that everybody claimed it was last year, right? I feel like his hands aren't the best whenever he's in traffic.
I don't know about that.
I seen him drop a lot in traffic. I'm sorry. Like, there was 2 or 3 games where he dropped in traffic, and it just kind of bothered me a little bit, because if you're a guy that is going to be relied on to get the ball quickly in tight spaces and screen game, or coming over the middle and sitting under linebackers or running mesh routes, and then I don't know. To me, I thought Matthew Golden was just, he came out of nowhere and he just produced. His best plays were in all the big games. He did not play.
That's the one thing I liked about him. He definitely shows
he did
up
not
when it
play
matters.
down to his competition at all. Like, he didn't. His footwork was one of the best. His route tempo was some of the best route tempo I've ever watched. He can kick return. He can punt return. He's got all this, and I thought his body control and everything were so good, man. I just feel like Matthew Golden right now is above Luther Burden, and I think that there's going to have to be something drastic happen at either of their pro days to get Luther Burden back above Matthew Golden, in my opinion.
I just think that he's a better build. He's bigger. He's more physical.
He's
than
a more
Golden.
NFL ready wide receiver.
Yeah,
Luther Burden reminds me of a gimmicky person that if you don't put him in the right offense, he's going to struggle.
I don't know. I don't see that. I think that Luther Burden's a better NFL body than Matthew Golden. I think he's more physical than Matthew Golden. I think that Golden's like a little bit smaller than him, I think. And of course, yeah, he got him on the speed. What did Burden run? A 4.41?
He ran a 4.29. And Matt Golden ran a 4.29.
Right, but I mean, if you're watching the tape, man, I've never seen Luther Burden struggle with speed. Like, to me, I mean, he's got good acceleration. He's got good top end speed. Like, it wasn't hurting him.
Well, you know what kind of hurt him a little bit was his 10-yard split. Luther Burden's 10-yard split was a 1.54, and you would say, oh, that's not bad. That's pretty good. But you got Alec Ailmaner from Stanford that's 6'2", 210 that run a 10-yard split at the exact same time as Luther Burden.
Yeah.
You've got these big guys that are out here. Pat Bryant, one of the slowest guys in the draft. He ran a 4.61, but his 10-yard split was a 1.56. Luther Burden's was a 1.54. So I'm talking like a blink of an eye there. Like Luther Burden struggles to get up to speed quickly. And I don't understand why that is, because if you watch his highlights, he's a highlight machine, right? He's all over the place.
I mean, Rashee Rice ran a 4.51. I mean, how slow does he look on an NFL football field? It looks like to me he's got some pretty good speed.
Yeah, but what was the 10-yard split?
I don't remember. I just think that with the right team.
I think a lot of times metrics can be overplayed. I totally understand that. But I just feel like there's a lot of questions right now with Luther Burden that he's got to answer here in the next few weeks.
And you're still comfortable with Luther Burden being below Jaden Higgins as well?
I think Jaden Higgins, in my opinion, depending on what you want, Jaden Higgins is a very nice ex-wide receiver. I think after Tet McMillan, I think Jaden Higgins is nice. And I'll tell you why. Because he's bigger than Tet McMillan. He's 7 pounds heavier. He's a little bit shorter. But the kid is just flat out a dog, dude. His footwork is so good for a guy that's 6'3", 217. Like, you would think he would be slow, stuck in the mud. He's got good footwork. He can fight during, he high points the ball well. He does a lot of things well. He also ran a 4.47, and his 10-yard split was better than Luther Burden at 6'3", 217. He ran a 1.53 10-yard split.
I just
put
think
that with a 40-inch vert.
Though, just off the tape, if I don't go by any of the measurables, or I don't go by any of that stuff, just off the eye test, I did say I had Bird the top 3. That's assuming that Hunter is not going to go as a wide receiver. But if he does, I think he's number 4. Because I do think I absolutely put Emeka Egbuka and Tet McMillan above him. But yeah, I think it gets a little hairy down in the 4, 5, 6 area.
It's always pick your poison, right? Like, I think the Chiefs valued Xavier Worthy more than a lot of teams. Obviously, the Bills valued Keon Coleman, the big X. So I would say the Bills would value Jaden Higgins, whereas the Chiefs would probably value Luther Burden.
Right. I see Sam Lofton in the chat says that Golden reminds them of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I could see that. So. I could see that a little bit too. And then also, I mean, I see a little bit of Amon-Ra St. Brown in Luther Burden's game as well. I actually think that one of the scouts said that Burden was Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jerry Jeudy smashed up together.
Yeah, there was an NFC scout that said that. He said that he got bored with that offense at Missouri. His playing style is like Jerry Jeudy, but with Amon-Ra St. Brown's hands and toughness.
Yeah,
that was an anonymous NFC scout.
I think it really just. I guess that Burden's definitely more of a risk than Matthew Golden. I think that's a safer pick. Matthew Golden would be a safer pick, right? And the reason why I say that is like Luther Burden's got that kind of mentality to where you don't know how much you're going to get from him. Like if you get 100%, like laser focused Luther Burden, passionate about football, he's going to be a monster. But if he's got any of that, lackadaisical, just relying on pure talent, this and that, then maybe I could see.
Well, another difference between those two is I think Golden can play all 3 receiver spots. I really do. Even at 6 foot, I think he could play an X if you needed him to. He's not going to be that big, tall, go get a jump ball kind of thing, but he can stretch the field and do things. I think he's more of a willing blocker.
Anyway, you guys got to go watch that video. You can see the whole entire list. Mike, honestly, besides Travis Hunter, if he decides to be a wide receiver, is the number 1 guy. Just period. The more tape I watch,
I'm glad you came around.
The more I realize that if he focuses on one position and one position only, and isn't trying to play middle school Iron Man football,
that, though, do you? I think
he has to. You're not playing both sides of the ball in the NFL. That's absurd. That's stupid. That's career suicide.
I think you're selling yourself short.
Yeah. And obviously you want to pick wide receiver over DB. You want to go make some money. You want to be that prima donna. You want to make, you want to be the man. But yeah, he's definitely the best as far as that goes. Now, Teddy McMillan and some of those guys, like, I think that's the thing with him is like he's crazy good. But to me, like, I'm kind of getting to the point to where it's like I don't even care to look at receivers like that for the Chiefs because we know that that's not the route they want to go. And obviously he's out of reach for them as well. He's going to go super early. But I think overall, like I said, Hunter's definitely the best on tape. You got like Tet McMillan, who's right up there with him. I think the most impressive one to me is Egbuka.
Egbuka is going to fly up draft boards the closer this gets.
He's got a great mentality, great work ethic. He can do anything and everything you want him to do.
Good hands, good body control.
Yeah, dude, he's going to be a good one for somebody. It's weird because it's another OSU receiver. Of course, we've had Olave and Wilson and Jackson Smith and Jigba and a couple others that have
They're
came out
pumping
of
them
there.
out right now, man.
Yeah, but I think that Egbuka is going to be a good one. I think somebody's really going to hit with that kid. So kind of liking it.
Yeah. I don't expect the Chiefs to take a first round pick with a wide receiver. I really don't. But the way this team's built, and if you want to get rid of Mecole Hardman, you want to get rid of, Justin Watson, you want to get rid of Sky Moore this offseason, you may not be able to sign back D-Hop. You may not get back Marquise Brown. You're going to have to invest somehow. And I think that the Chiefs always need to invest in a second, third, fourth round wide receiver every year in the hopes that you hit another Rashee Rice because that keeps it in the tank because you never know. We hit with Rashee Rice and then look at all the bad luck we've had there. ACL, suspension, all kinds of crap that hit us in the last offseason. So,
yeah. Hey, draft stuff's fun. There's going to be a lot of draft stuff coming up. If you guys do like draft content, and a lot of you say that you do, if you do, you got to watch it. When we put it out, watch the videos. Or else we can't. Like, let me tell you, draft content is not that much of a runner for YouTube. It's very hard to put out and invest the time to make a full-length video, edit, put it out. Not a whole lot of people want to watch draft content. They really don't. More people say it than they do. So we're kind of like borderline on that one right now. It's something that we've kind of thrown back and forth. Are we going to have to do more of it on live streams? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know yet. But if you do like the content, definitely go consume it. And we'll continue to put out more and more draft content. So check that video out. Get in the comments on that one. Let us know that you watched it and who you like and who you think we're missing. Mike, I thought there was one obvious name that we're missing from our top 10 list, and he's going to crack it. I have full faith that he will be there, and I'm surprised that he wasn't on our list.
talking about wide receiver?
Hindsight. Yeah.
Who?
How did we left our boy Besh off the top
Jack
10.
Besh?
Yeah, and we both love him. He's both a my guy.
No, he's a my guy. I just don't know if he cracks the top 10 when it's all said and done.
Well, I think from a Chiefs lens, I think he should. I think it's something we have to talk about. So there will be tweaks and everything to these positions, the values and stuff like that. So it'll be fun to continue that. We'll be doing running backs next. So that's coming up, and then we'll probably dive into the O-line and start looking at that.
I think we were a little higher on guys like Jalen Royals. I think we're a little higher than Mel Kiper and DJ and everybody was. And then I think Kyle Williams, those are the two guys we were a little higher on that probably pushed Besh out. Which also, Savion Williams in that same category. I really like Savion Williams. You didn't see it.
Yeah, we're kind of back and forth.
That was one
there,
right in the middle. I thought Savion Williams obviously he just looks like Cordero Patterson.
Yeah.
We know we're going to hear that 400 times, but it is what it is.
Yep. Well, we'll keep our eye on different moves and everything that the Chiefs are inevitably going to be going through this offseason. So, Joe Thuney, the first one out, man. Hey, here's your MVP. You were the MVP of the season. We appreciate you.
The Derek Thomas Award.
Gone. Just like that.
They had to free up $16 million, man. They had to do it.
Brett Veach ain't playing around, son. He's got to make these moves. He's going to make a lot of unpopular moves.
Dude, it's the cost to keep guys in house like Trey Smith. People wanted Trey Smith back. This is what you have to give up to get it. Like, we can't have it all. Can't have our cookie and eat the cookie.
Cake. It's
both.
Cake, Mike.
Can't have either.
Man. Let me make sure we got everybody. Yeah, I got every one of the super chats. Appreciate you guys with the super chats. You guys are awesome. Also, if you're not a member yet, go to join.allchiefedup.com. Become a member. We're going to have a lot of members only content. Probably do some mock drafts soon and things like that. It'll be fun. Things like that, bub. We'll be doing all that. So also, if you have any suggestions for content, make sure to throw those in the chat or put them in a comment on a different video, whatever it might be. Mike, you got anything left for the kingdom today?
No, man. I think no, but everybody should just take a deep breath. Don't overreact to the Joe Thuney thing. I mean, the dude was 32 going on 33. He was set to make a lot of money.
We definitely got our use out of Joe Thuney for sure.
And you need, if you had to pick Joe Thuney or Trey Smith, who are you taking right now? You have to take Trey Smith with the future. Like, you just have to.
Gotta do it. Gotta stay young. You gotta stay hungry. We gotta keep going, man.
Yep.
Mahomes didn't cut his hair for nothing.
Maybe.
He didn't cut his hair for nothing.
Oh, well.
It's going to be a good year. Appreciate you guys. Hit that like button on the way out if you haven't already. Also, subscribe if you haven't, and all that good stuff. We'll see you next time. Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs.
Heaven was a sight from my soul.